So why should African leaders go to the United States looking like beggars? And also we must demand that at some point President Trump must also come to Africa. It's not a one-way street that all the African heads of state should be streaming to the United States. He too must come to Africa. But are we even demanding that? I'm getting a lot of grief sometimes when I talk about an Africa with a single military, an Africa with a one central bank, one monetary policy, one currency, an Africa that had one trade union. Fast forward, 62 years later, going on 63, those wishes are yet to be realized. 2025, of the pillars of development that were discussed by our founding fathers in 1963, we've only been able to accomplish only one: the creation of the ECFA. Why is it that it has taken us this long to deliver on the wishes of our Pan-African fathers? The question goes even further. Why is it that even the most obvious things that we could do from the African Union level, for example, saying no visas for an African to travel around Africa, something so simple, the leaders could just go back to their parliaments and get it approved. To this day, we have not been able to do that. A friend of mine, one of the commissioners, once showed me a beautiful photograph. There were women on one side selling their tomatoes and their wares. There was what looked like a road, and there were other women on the other side. He said, "Ambassador, what do you see in this picture?" I said, "I see women doing their thing." He said, "Yes, Ambassador, women are doing their thing. But guess what happens? When the women on this side of the road run out of tomatoes, but the women on the other side still have tomatoes, the citizens of this side cannot cross over to buy the tomatoes on the other side because they need a visa." This is how ridiculous and insane the things that we do. We can take it even further. Let's go into our parliaments. Education, we have all been talking about the miseducation of the African. How tall is the mountain that we must climb to make this noise and speak this language and tell our leadership that we have been miseducated? Our curriculum has got to change. We need a more Pan-African curriculum. How long is it going to take us to change the curriculum? We talk about the institutions that were created after the European tribal wars in 1945. Institutions like United Nations, World Bank, IMF, World Trade Organization, World Health Organization. Institutions that must be dismantled, institutions we have no business belonging in, and yet like fools, we follow their lead. Institutions that to this day, as we speak, many African countries are spending over 50% of their GDP on loan repayment. And yet our ministers, twice a year, they go to Washington to attend the World Bank meetings, to be told how to run their currencies, how to devalue their currencies, how to engage in policies that are detrimental to their own development, and they say, "Yes, master." They don't challenge them. They don't say, "No, no, no. These loans have been paid a gazillion times over. We are not paying them anymore." Our sister yesterday, Sister Dr. Obi, told us about a loan of $4 billion by Nigeria in 1974. To date, Nigeria has paid over 50 billion and they still owe. How long are we going to wake up? We talk about our ministers of culture. We have artifacts that were stolen, looted out of Africa, and they're all over Europe. And we Africans, we go to Europe and we stand in line to pay and look at that which belongs to us. And none of them is demanding the repatriation of all of them. If we are going to destroy them, let us be the ones to destroy them. But they tell you, oh, you Africans are not good at keeping them. And our ministers, they go to Europe and they agree with them. I kind of like one Nigerian guy. I don't know if you guys saw this story. He went into a museum in London. There was a huge Benin bronze statue. The only place you get Benin bronze was from Nigeria. So the man went in with his screws. I don't know if you saw it. It was on the internet. He started unscrewing the statue. So when they called the police, he gave the thing a big hug and he refused to budge. He said, this is mine, I'm taking it home. It took a citizen. Where are the ministers of culture who should be demanding this? A simple demand to say, if you don't repatriate our artifacts, don't come here. We have heads of our ancestors sitting in jars, in basements throughout Europe. And you know why we can't have them? You know how when they come here hunting and they kill an elephant and they kill a lion and they take the head as a trophy? They were classified. Heads of our ancestors, hear me out. They were classified as trophies of conquest. So that's why they don't fit in the category of repatriation, because this is my possession. It is my trophy of conquest. And our ministers of culture and they came to Africa and found an amazing continent with some of the most powerful kingdoms and all the riches that they could ever think of having. And they wondered, how on earth can we defeat such a people? Can't fight them with wars. You can find them genetically, because some of you may not know, but the only dominant gene on earth is the black gene. I tell young people all the time, if all of you today were to make a commitment to say we will no longer mate with other black people, we are going to go after others who don't look like us. Give it 3 generations, the world will be black. Because whenever we met with a non-black, the product is always black. Because black is the only dominant gene on earth, plain and simple, end of story. So because they couldn't destroy us otherwise, they couldn't destroy us by taking our natural resources. We got an abundance of them. They can take, they've been stealing, but they barely touched the tip of the iceberg. So the place where they could defeat us was the mind. So it is, they set out to demoralize us. Anything to do with Africa is bad and undesirable. Encouraged us to look to their nations for all our needs, and belief and description and definition of that which is beautiful and desirable. Fast forward. This, my brothers and sisters, is the disease that's making it impossible for the African heads of states to come up with simple decisions such as free movement of people in Africa, visa-free. It is the same mindset that is keeping the ministers from doing the right thing. Remember that 5-year-old boy, his life was finished even before it began, and that 5-year-old is going to grow up to be your next minister, your next president. What do you expect? Like my niece, when she finally realized that she was suffering from the legacy of colonization, that was healing at a very profound level. But that was just the beginning. Decolonization 101 is about acceptance that you're sick. You're not only sick at home, you're not only sick in a doctor's office, you're not only sick in the ward in the hospital, you are sick in the intensive care and you need intensive healing. The question is, which lane are you? Are you in the lane that my niece ended up in after she realized that she had the disease? Are you in the lane where you don't think you have a problem, or I don't suffer from the disease of this colonization? Or are you in the lane where you don't even know there's something called Pan-Africanism? We are just in La La Land. The choice is yours. Healing yourself from the legacy of colonization is not going to be easy. You did not get to be of this mindset overnight. You are under some spell. You know, I'm here with my vice president of my organization, Damien Cook. He always talks about, Ambassador, it's like a computer software. It's always running in the background. We have that program running in our background. But until you realize that that program is there, and you gotta get rid of it, it will always, and I mean always, control everything that you do. So even when you become the CEO of a big Fortune 500 company, when you go to that boardroom, garbage in, garbage out. You must understand that as black people, we are under siege. The reason our incapability of being able to deal with issues like other nations do in a common sense leadership way, common sense governance, is because we were defeated where it matters the most, which is the mind. And until the mind heals, you see, as a medical doctor, I can't help you unless if you realize you're sick and you come to see me. So until you realize and accept that you are sick, you will not get the healing that you need. So when President Trump calls you to come to Washington to discuss trade, who is going to meet with President Trump? What mindset are you taking with you? Do you understand what's at stake? How much appreciation do you have of the geopolitics and how that geopolitics fits into your agenda? Your agenda as a nation, your agenda as the regional bloc, and your agenda as the African continent. Do you have your facts together? Do you understand what it takes? Are you well prepared? Because when you go to the negotiating table at any level, look at that negotiating table as a battlefield. It is a war that must be won. President Ramaphosa went to Washington totally unprepared, and they got drummed on. You know, when I was still at the AU, see, the Americans have, you got to realize that what we do is a game. This world that we live in is a game. You gotta realize, is this checkers or is this chase? You see, you can't send your checkers players to participate in a game of chase. You got to realize every day of our existence, we are playing games from one place to another, different levels, but life is a game and you must play to win. So it is. I would watch the Americans, and I started sharing with others. We have a meeting, okay, they're coming in, and usually there's a reception before finally we go inside. Look at the way the Americans arrive. We're meeting one person, 5, 6 SUVs pull up, but the way they pull up, they don't just drive slowly coming to a stop. When you see those cars coming, they don't look like they're going to stop. All all of them, they're just coming. And the way they come out, those people opening the doors, they don't just get out of the cars. They jump out of the cars and those doors are swinging, bang, 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 bang. And the people coming out are jumping out and they're walking over there and they're shaking your hand. That's all part of the intimidation. Are you with me? It's a game. They break you down before the meeting even begins. Can we not do that too? Yes, we can. But we won't go in passive. President Ramaphosa, Mr. President, do you know the game that we played? Without noticing it, they go into that Oval Office, lights out, television on, showtime. Mr. President, there are all these crosses. White people being killed by black people in South Africa. What do you have to say to that? Mr. President should have said, if there were that many white people being killed in my country, I would know. Mr. President, I can tell you categorically, that is not my country. But instead, what did he say? Well, I'm going to have to look into that. Mr. President, all those people have died in your country and you don't know? Are you sure you're the president of this country? Round one, US. Oh, showtime again. Another photograph. Men in body bags being hauled away. Mr. President, those are white people in South Africa who have been killed by black people. What do you have to say to that? Instead of saying, even his own people, AI, take a shot of the picture. AI will tell you where that picture came from. But instead of saying, Mr. President, if there were that many white people being killed in my country, I would know. That is not my country. Somebody's lying to. Once again, I've never seen that. I'll have to look into it. Round two, US. So he thought, maybe I have a white Minister of Agriculture. Let me turn it over to him. Maybe he can rescue me out of this. The white Minister of Agriculture, instead of saying, Mr. President, I am a white man, I can tell you categorically there is no white genocide in South Africa. We are undergoing land reform based on the Constitution. No one is killing white people in South Africa. What did he say instead? Oh, yes, Mr. President, we have a problem. We need help. Round three, US. Are we going to be going to the United States? Are we going to be negotiating with other nations and getting our rear ends kicked left, right, and center? Why? Because we're not prepared. President Trump flipped the script on them and he went gangster. When he went gangster, they should have gone gangbusters. This was a fist fight that turned into a boxing fight. And the boxing fight, when it goes on to become a warfare, do you have your boxing gloves of knowledge? Should the boxing gloves be called for? Do you have your bazooka of knowledge? Should that knowledge be called for? Do you have your banga buster of knowledge? Because conversations are going to escalate. Negotiations are not a straight line. They give you this, you should be ready with many other positions. They say this, I say that. They say this, I say that. This is our game plan. This is what we're going to accept. From here to here, below this, we're packing our bags and we're going home. The United States is not the only country to trade with. So why should African leaders go to the United States looking like beggars? And also we must demand that at some point, President Trump must also come to Africa. It's not a one-way street that all the African heads of state should be streaming to the United States. He too must come to Africa. But are we even demanding that? I'm getting a lot of grief sometimes when I talk about President Trump and dismantling USAID. Africans are saying, but Ambassador, we were getting aid and they were helping us. Really? Do you understand what a gift it is to Africa? When President Trump pulled USAID, a lot of the nefarious activities were being carried out through USAID. When President Trump says, let's get rid of the United Nations, hey, Now you're talking. When he says, let's get rid of WTO, let's get rid of World Health Organization. Now we are talking. Let's not get caught up in the bravado. Let's not jump on the bandwagon. There is a whole lot going on the world stage. Let's cherry pick that which works for us. And as far as dismantling of those institutions which were created after the Second World War, let's sit back and enjoy the show. They all must be dismantled and new ones must be created that are more responsive, truly representative of the global community, not just a few countries. So yes, there are domestic issues they have to deal with in the US. But for those of you out here, look to the global issues. What works for you and what does not work for you. The moment we're in is a new game which is calling for new rules of engagement. If this was a basketball game, I will be asking the African leaders to call for timeout. They need to go to the sidelines and re-strategize. It's a new game that's calling for new rules of engagement. And this is where you young people come in. Back in the 1950s and 60s, as African countries were getting their independence, so to speak, from the colonizers, some countries had it a little easy. They didn't have to fight. But there are many others like Zimbabwe, South Africa, Namibia, Mozambique, Angola, Algeria, many others. They had to fight. And I remember as a young woman, 15 years of age at a boarding school, every morning would wake up and, two boys have disappeared. Young men, some as young as 14. They understood that there was something terribly wrong going on in their countries. I'm talking apartheid. So at a young, tender age, they gave it all up. They risked their own lives. They knew if I walked in this direction, I shall run into a country called Mozambique. They are sympathetic to my cause. I shall go learn how to fight, come back with a gun and fight to the bitter end for what I believe in. So it is. Many young men left. They joined the guerrilla warfare. I still remember as a young person we were thinking defeating Ian Smith in Zimbabwe was mission impossible. Ian Smith himself would boom in the radio and television. Zimbabwe, Rhodesia at that time, will never see black rule, not in his lifetime, not in a million years. The mountain was too steep to climb. But that did not deter those young men and women who believed in what can be done when we come together with one purpose, one mission in mind, and work in a selfless manner, do or die. But that wrong had to be righted. It is that spirit that gave us the independent nations that we see today. They gave us political liberation. What we never received was economic liberation. And now, that ball is in your court. You can't expect those who gave us political liberation to also give us economic liberation. What sacrifices are you ready to make to deliver economic liberation for Africa? In your case, you no longer have to risk your life. You no longer have to carry a gun. You just have to be smart. You just have to heal yourself from the legacy of colonization. You guys have to rid yourself, if you are across the waters, you got to rid yourself of the legacy of slavery. So when that NGO comes to you, wants to give you trinkets so you can go to America, give you trinkets so you can go to Europe, well, you know what? If you have to go, go, but don't lose your head. Know who you are. Know where home is. Refuse to be used as an instrument of your own self-destruction. That is the biggest problem we have in Africa today. You have people who are in government as we speak, who are on payrolls of foreign nations. Why are you betraying your country to this degree? The ball is in our court. as your elders, together with you young people, I do know that with your intelligence and your energy, and we work together, a little bit of wisdom from us, we got this. The most powerful, richest continent on earth can no longer continue to be treated like 10th class citizens. We have to get off the position of feeling inferior or being told we're not good. We have to stop being afraid. When I was in Washington and I traveled, it was sickening to see how scared our ministers would be sometimes. How scared the ambassadors were at times. What are you afraid of? These are other men that go to the bathroom and take off their pants just like you do. What are you afraid of? Why can't you look them in the face and tell them like it is? When they are out of line, call them out. You should never be intimidated because you know where you come from. I had a young man who was kind of dark in complexion. He came home and told his mother, he said, "Mom, my friends are laughing at me. They said they don't see me coming until I smile or open my eyes." So the mother was with her aunt, and she said, "Oh, do you know they're very jealous of you?" I said, "First of all, you are that color because you are well done. You are done well. Secondly, you have something called melanin. They don't have it. They're so jealous of you because they want to have it, but they don't have it. That's why they go to the sunning bed to try and get some melanin. You don't have to because yours is natural. They're jealous of you." So it is that young people, our work is in our hands. It's not going to be easy. Reclaiming our economic liberation. If I may leave you with one word, I'm asking all of you to have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror. Because the healing that we desire starts with the mind. For that is where we were destroyed the most. I have 3 quotes to leave with you. The day will come when history will speak. Africa will write its own history. It will be a history of glory and dignity. This was Patrice Lumumba. Coming from the Caribbean, Marcus Garvey said, "A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." And finally, our own Kwame Nkrumah said, "A state in the grip of neo-colonization is not master of its own destiny. It is this factor which makes neo-colonialism such a serious threat to world peace and African development." Yesterday, you heard Professor Lumumba remind you that you are a chicken that was raised like an eagle. Now the moment has come. You have been given an opportunity to rise. You are an eagle. Rise up, get up and fly. We know it's going to be a tall order. We know the mountain is going to be high. Birds sing not because they can, they sing because they have a song. As Africans, let's come together and give the world the best melody the world has ever seen. The world that says, down with corruption, down with exploitation of Africa, down with imperialism, down with neo-colonization. The mountain is high. Let's sing and go to the tallest mountain and let the world know who we are. The proud, the beautiful, the intelligent, sophisticated, highly adaptable, totally indestructible Africans. Rise, eagles, rise.
And yes, indeed, rise. Rise and rise.
A very good afternoon to all of you, our young people together. I often say When I'm among young people, I feel 10 to 20 years younger, and I walk with a little pep in my step.